Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Defining Discipline podcast. I'm your host, Scott. This is episode 324, as well as day 324 of my journey. At the beginning of the year, I challenged myself to run 365 days in a row, all outside, bearing the elements, whatever they may bring. I also challenged myself to run 1,500 miles within this time frame. Also within this time frame, I've challenged myself to run two big races. One of those races being a 50K ultra marathon trail race. That was the Yankee Springs 50K trail race out in Middleville, Michigan on June 5th, 2021. That was day 156 of my journey, and I was able to finish that 31-mile race within 7 hours, 15 minutes, and 22 seconds. That was a personal record for me, being my first ever 50K trail race. So I was really excited about that. The next race that came up within this yearly time frame was on day 290 of my journey, and that was the Detroit Free Press Marathon. I challenged myself to run the Motor City Challenge within that marathon, which entailed me to run the competitive 1 mile and the competitive 5K the day before the marathon on day 289, and got out there and run the marathon on day 290, like I said, and was able to finish that race. Was shooting for a sub 4 hour within that marathon and actually finished within 3 hours, 57 minutes, and 28 seconds. So that was also another personal record for me. And clearly we're here on day 324 in a row of running. So clearly I was able to keep the streak alive as well after both of those big races, which was actually a bigger challenge almost than running those races. The races were a huge challenge, but the soreness of my body on the following days after both those races really was a big challenge to get past. But we're past it, and we're here, like I said, on day 324 in a row. So we're going to actually break down the mileage for today, the week, the month, and the year. So for the day today, got out there again for the 6th day in a row this week and put in 7 miles. That put me at 42.3 miles for the week, which put me at 144 miles even for the month, which put me at, drum roll please, 1,503.4 miles for the year. So I have officially surpassed my yearly goal of 1,500 miles. It has now been accomplished. Now the only goal left I have of this year that I need to finish is to actually finish out the year every single day running 365 days in a row. So really stoked and excited about that. But let's actually quickly focus in on these monthly miles of 144. And that is because every single month I challenge myself to run a 100-mile challenge in honor of a charity in which I donate money to, as well as start a coinciding fundraiser to try to raise money for and awareness for throughout this month, or the month that it is in honor of. So for the first 10 months, we were able to raise money for 10 great charities. Now we're here within the 11th month, the month of November. And November's 100-mile challenge is in honor of a cause called Movember. So if you'd like to find out more about this month's fundraiser and where you're able to make your donations, as well as click on that share button to try to raise awareness for this month's fundraiser, you can find the link to do all three of those on the Defining Discipline Instagram story or the Defining Discipline Facebook story, or my personal page's Instagram story or my personal page's Facebook story. Within all of those stories, like I said, all you do is you click on the link. It'll open up the page where you're able to learn more about this month's fundraiser a little bit more, which is Movember, and you'll be able to make your donations as well as click on that share button to try to help raise awareness for this cause. Now, other than that, I guess let's kind of get ready to get into today's actual episode 324. But quickly, right before we do that, We will quickly go over the word of the day we have been following along with for a while now, so let's keep it going. Today's word of the day is trepidation. Trepidation is a feeling of fear that causes hesitation because you think that something bad or unpleasant is going to happen. So that was a pretty good word of the day. We've had some pretty good words of the day here throughout the month of November. So let's actually get into today's episode, though. Episode 324, day 324. Today's theme for today's episode is accomplish. And for a couple reasons. But first and foremost reasons is because I was able to accomplish my yearly goal. If you've been following along since day one of this journey, you will know that the first original yearly goal was actually 1250. Didn't want to try to step up too much from the previous year of 2020 when I was able to run 175 days out of the year that year, and I only was able to run 1,001 miles. I think I was shooting for 1,000, was able to hit it at the last minute there within the year of 2020. So this year for 2021, I wanted to kind of just step it up a little bit and challenge myself to do a 25% step up from last year's mileage and go for 1,250. But it was, I think, maybe May, June, or July. I seen how far along I was getting with the mileage that I had, and kind of realized that was going to surpass 1250 a lot earlier than I expected. So wanted to push it up to a more reasonable number, which was going to be 1,500. So we have officially passed that 1,500 yearly mile goal. So I've accomplished, I guess technically two yearly mile goals, but even this yearly mile goal, it was kind of, crazy to even think about. Didn't think I was going to be able to, one, hit it this fast, and two, maybe even hit it. It seemed very, yes, attainable, but also kind of a little bit out of reach with putting in work every single day, thinking that I was going to have no rest days off, not knowing how many days I'd actually feel good enough to put in enough miles to get close to this. So that is a huge accomplishment for me, and I'm very glad. And I'm going to be writing off this accomplishment here for a week or so, maybe. And now just kind of be thinking about next year's yearly goal. But to also kind of touch on an accomplishment, it feels good when you accomplish things. But the problem with that is it's kind of temporary. When you accomplish something, the good feeling is there for a little bit, but then you start to kind of feel like you're missing something, and you kind of go into not like a depression, but you think, oh well, what's next? That's kind of how I've been with these races that we've done throughout this year, and when I hit a PR, and when I in July I hit 200 miles for the month. So it's like, all right, well, what's next? This month I'm trying to hit maybe 215, and it's always pushing yourself, and that's the great thing about and accomplishments, is when you hit them, they prove that you are better than you truly thought you may have been, and it gives you that strength to really see that you can do things. But it also gives you the ability to see that you can reach even a little bit higher and continue to go and continue to go and continue to go. And with these accomplishments, and when you accomplish things, there's going to be a lot of failures building up to those. And just as important as accomplishment are failure as well, because it's how you bounce back from a failure to reach that accomplishment stage. And again, throughout um, all throughout this year, yes, I've had a lot of accomplishments, and I've accomplished a lot throughout this year so far. Um, doing the 50K and stuff like that. But even within doing the 50K, in the back of my mind, I feel like I've failed with doing the 50K. I wanted a lot faster time. Yes, I got my own personal PR because it was my first ever 50K with 7 hours and 15 minutes and 22 seconds. Yeah, that's great. But finishing it, it was like I said, it was an accomplishment. It was a great feeling, and I felt great, and I was riding off a high on it. But after a couple, a week or so goes by, you're thinking, well, what could I have done better? And looking back, it's like it's not a failure necessarily, but it's something that I was shooting for a faster time, and I could have, attacked it a lot smarter. There was just a lot of different things that um, I could have done better, as well as even looking back on the marathon. The marathon was a great accomplishment. I wanted that sub 4 hour time, and I got what I asked for. Um, but shooting out of the gate of that marathon and making it to roughly right around mile 19:20, um, and keeping up right around with the pacer for the 3 hour and 20 minute mark, thinking I'm in the back of my mind, I'm thinking, wow, I'm about to really blow through this and hit 3 hours and 20 minutes. And again, failure hit, and I got the wall hit, and I fell behind, and I barely made the 3 hour and barely made the 3 hour 57 and 28-second time I got. Barely made that sub 4 hour time I was shooting for, even though I was on pace for 3 hours and 20 minutes, right around to mile 19. And then I kind of really fell back and broke off. I had to stop and pee. I think it was mile 22. I had to stop and pee, and then it was just it was a struggle bus the whole time through those last 7-8 miles. So, um, was it a great accomplishment to get that sub 4 hour time? Yes, loved it. And again, I was riding on a high knowing I did it. But looking back, it's like I could have done so much better if I would have played it smarter, played my cards smarter. And it's like, I'm always churning of thinking of how I can go back and accomplish it better and accomplish more. And that's what you get when you start accomplishing things and setting goals for yourself and accomplishing them. So it's very important to set goals, and especially goals that you know you're able to accomplish, but even ones that are just maybe slightly out of reach, that have the subject of failure. And when you reach those goals where there's a big possibility that you can fail, you find so much more strength to continue on and continue on and continue on, and find harder goals to try to accomplish, and keep pushing yourself to do better and go farther. At least that's what I've been doing these past 2 years. And again, there's been many failures of different things that's happened throughout this whole entire year. There's been plenty of days I've had no motivation, um, but it's days like today. Even today, I waited till the last minute to get out there on my run. Didn't really feel like running, felt like crap, but got out there, and after I started running, I realized, wait a second, I'm about to cross 1,500 miles today. And then it just got put in the back of my head, and just felt good for the rest of the run. And body felt a little, still worn down, and a little crappy because I've been putting in all the miles here towards the end of the year. But, um, you know, I just realized it's like, hey, I accomplished something that I set myself up to, and it's a good feeling. And now, you know, haven't really put too much thought about it in it, but I can already feel the wheels turning in the back of my head, thinking, what next? What's the next goal for next year? We hit 1,500 this year, and it looks like, well, one, we got plenty of time left still this year, so let's see actually where we end up this year. What's a good goal for next year? What's a good step up for next year mileage, and all that? And it's already churning. So, um, really excited, really stoked about that, guys. And like I said, it's very important to set yourself up with goals and something to aim at, and things that are one you can accomplish. But again, if you just live a life of only setting goals where you're always accomplishing, you're not setting the bar high enough. You need to set it more where there's a possibility of failure. Not saying that you can't always accomplish and that you can't avoid failure a lot, but at the same time, you need to have that possibility of failure. You can't go and, you know, be so good at something but only challenge people who are half as good as you. You're never going to get better. If you want to get better at something, you got to challenge people who are better than you in order to adapt and get better yourself. So that's kind of an analogy, but that's the same thing with accomplishments. You can't just keep setting goals and accomplishments that you know are easily attainable in order just to give you that that little quick spark in order to think, oh, I'm doing good. I'm accomplishing this. But if it's a minor thing that isn't taking much out of you and doesn't have much effort and doesn't have a big subject for failure, you're really not pushing yourself. You're really not learning. You're really not getting better. So that is kind of going to be your daily discipline for the day, guys. It is to see what accomplishments are you setting for yourself? What accomplishments are you hitting? What goals are you setting for yourself? Are these goals, one, attainable? And two, do they have any risk for failure? And you need to figure out that ratio of whatever you think is good for you. But again, I think it's good to really set a goal for yourself that, one, is attainable, but two, has a big enough risk for failure or just unpredictability. And I think when you accomplish those goals, and even if you do fail, you don't let it stop you. That's one thing too about this, is if you might fail, but you don't let what happened stop you from really pushing and continue going forward. So the main thing is to set these goals and accomplish these goals. So your daily discipline for the day is to accomplish your goals that have enough subject for failure in order to really develop and push yourself forward to set even bigger goals to accomplish, if that made any sense. But that's going to be your daily discipline for the day today. Other than that, thank you guys so much for following along. Day 324, it's just insane to think we're, one, this far along in the year, and two, I have crossed my yearly goal mileage for the year. We're going to see where this year ends up at in terms of miles, but we officially crossed that goal off the list, accomplished. So that's a good high I'm going to be riding on, and now I know that one, I did have a huge subject for failure of hitting this. It didn't just because I've passed it already, and I may surpass it more than I had, maybe more than 100 miles or so. There was plenty of time where this was hard. It wasn't just some easy thing. I really, really had to push myself to get here. So there was a huge subject for failure. Now I know where that's at. Now I'm going to be able to push myself farther and see where I can get with that. And there's still going to be where I push myself next. Like I said, there may even be a bigger subject for failure. Who knows? Maybe I go for 2,500. Who knows? Maybe I try to go over 1,000 more than what I did this year. Who truly knows? We're going to figure that out again once we see where we end up for the year total. But you got your daily discipline. It is to go out there and do the same thing. Accomplish your goals in order to set bigger goals up for yourself. Thank you guys so much for listening. 324 episodes. This is the Defining Discipline Podcast. I'm your host, Scott. If you guys can, please give the podcast a like, a subscribe, a follow, a share on Facebook, TikTok, YouTube, Instagram, and whatever other podcast streaming platform you've been found along and listening on. Other than that, I'll see you guys for tomorrow on episode 325. Until then, stay disciplined. Get your daily discipline done. If you guys can, please get those donations in. And peace out.